Hi, parents and guardians. Welcome to my class. I'm Mrs. Munson, and I'm excited to share with you what I've been working on with your students and how this year will be for them. So I'm sharing with you the presentation that I prepared, and this will be also attached to the email that I sent to you, so you can access it and be able to click on the links and everything. So back to school night. It's already here. Feels like it's just been a couple days since class started. Um, and things are definitely still, coming together, but we're having fun so far. So this is a slide that I show the students every day, so I wanted to share it with you guys as well. On one side, it's just a reminder that they're not allowed to take pictures or to record anything during Zoom because that violates the privacy of other students and of the teacher. So that's a reminder that I give them every day. And then I remind them of our class purpose, which was to build a community of learners that support each other so that we can all build our understanding and knowledge of biology. And that each of them should bring a positive attitude and take positive actions in class every day. I have to say that the students are really doing awesome. They're being very cooperative. They're on task, not distracting their classmates, and just really being like part of a team. And I really appreciate that a lot. It's made things a lot nicer. Just some quick stuff about me. My name is Mrs. Munson. I am a California native. I grew up in Berkeley, California in the Bay Area. I've been teaching pretty long, been to weddings and even baby showers. Makes me feel old. My husband's from Africa. We met in Paris, so I'm fluent in French, and I have two kids of my own. I also have cats. And most importantly for you guys to know is that I'm really here in this job because I love this job and I want to be here, and I'm all about helping my students learn. So if you feel you need an advocate, I want to help them in whatever way I can. And I'm also like very interested in improving, so I'm very open to suggestions. I have a website that has a bunch of things that could be helpful to you. So there's ways to communicate with me. There's a place to click to request a Zoom or a phone meeting. There's a place to put comments and suggestions in. There's information about the clubs that I advise. And there's a community events calendar that right now has lots of great links to events that are happening on, on online platforms. So lots of virtual events like tonight and this weekend. There's a free Shakespeare play put on by UC Irvine. So those kind of things, I have them linked on the community events calendar. And so it's definitely worth visiting my website. There's not a whole lot of details about the classes themselves, because that's really on the Google Classroom. Also, in order to communicate like very easily with me and for me to be able to communicate with you and your student, I have a couple messaging apps that I use. So I'm trying to switch over to this Talking Points messaging app. And so most of the students are signed up already for this. And I find it interesting because it can translate into more than 100 languages. So if you or another parent or guardian um, is more comfortable in a different language than English, then you could get all of my announcements translated into another language, and then whatever you send back to me, the response could be in a different language and then get translated back to me into English. So that's great. Um, and so that's one way. So it would be great if parents can sign up to be part of this messaging app, and that's the fastest way to get hold of me. Now, since the first year I'm using Talking Points, I did not know this, but you can't use Talking Points as a student or a parent unless you have a phone. So I did go ahead and send up a Remind messaging group for this class as well. So there's a Remind group as well, if you'd rather be part of that. You can go to their website to join to get emails. And that way it doesn't have to be on the phone if you or your student doesn't use a phone or just prefers to keep school stuff off of the phone, and that would be an alternative. The students have we have a new curriculum this year, and they have their textbook and their student notebook. They also have access to a whole digital kind of classroom that goes along with the curriculum. And so there are assignments that are assigned in there. Most of the assessments and tests will be through the STEMscopes app, which the kids can access through their EGUSD portal. That's really the only way for them to log in properly to their STEMscopes app. So, so far, I believe all the students have been able to get on there. There may be a couple of exceptions, and I'm still working on getting them in there. So we had our first test in biology yesterday. No, on Tuesday. I'm not quite done grading them, but I'm close. Overall, they did pretty well. And so I think it worked well doing it in this format. Also, the whole textbook is available in STEMscopes. So if you're traveling or something like that, they would be able to access that from the app. These are just the expectations for being in Zoom and video conferencing. For the most part, students have been following these guidelines very well. So definitely in terms of muting themselves and less speaking, that's been great. In fact, I wish they would talk more and unmute themselves more, but it's been pretty good. All of the students are really using the chat for on-task conversations. Maybe once or twice somebody used it for something else, but I made sure to shut that down. So they're doing a really good job of that. Some students are more engaged than others, but overall, I definitely have most of the students are engaged and interacting, so I'm really pleased with that as well. And people have mostly been on time, and also, mostly in appropriate locations. So sometimes a student will be, joining from their bed or something, and that's not really appropriate, so I want to be in a workspace so they can work. Another question that you might have is if the student needs a notebook or a binder. So I advise the students just to have some binder paper and some Scotch tape. So when we take notes, the students can actually just tape it into their student notebook in the section that we're working on. I think that would work fine. But if your student would rather use a notebook or a binder because they have a hard time maybe keeping papers in place, then that would probably be a great idea. I will not be grading notebooks or binders. But being organized and having all your notes in one place will be very, very helpful because the students are allowed to use their notes and any of their class materials on the exams. And so it will definitely be helpful for them to have that organized. So if you're the parent of a ninth grader who maybe needs some guidance on organization, that's something I would normally do in the class, but not really something I can do learning. So that would be a great place for you as a parent to help guide them as how to organize their work. Here are the topics that we're hoping to cover this term. There are a lot of them, 9 topics in 8 weeks. Right now, we're in the second topic. I'm not sure we're going to get to all of them, but we're going to try. And one thing about distance learning is we do have a lot less time in class. And we also don't want to overwhelm the students with work. So we may not touch every single topic that we would normally do in biology, but we're going to try and do it if we can do it in a sane way. For grading, these are the grading categories. So you can see assessments or tests are worth 40%. They're worth the most. If a student does really awful on an assessment, then I will work with them to try and get them to do another version of the assessment. And then, if that doesn't work out, then they'll just have to live with that grade until they take the next one. So we do quite a bit of assessments. So one bad assessment isn't going to necessarily bring their grade way down. But if they have a continuing pattern of doing poorly on the assessments, And that's something that we'll need to really help them out with. The assignments, these are like daily assignments and explorations. This is our daily kind of work. And so that's worth 45%. So if they're missing a lot of assignments, that will definitely bring their grade down and probably also affect their assessment grade if they're not doing the daily work. The final is worth 15%, and we'll talk more about the format of the final in a couple slides here. So right now I'm behind in putting grades into Synergy, and we're even behind on grading them in Google Classroom. It really takes a lot of time, especially when you're trying to give decent feedback to grade in the Google Classroom. So right now at this beginning point, I usually fall a little bit behind at the beginning of the school year anyway, just because there's so many demands on getting things set up. But I'm farther behind than I would like to be, and I'm working really hard to get caught up. So putting in those, 18, 20-hour days, trying to get all caught up. So it will be caught up very soon. And certainly by this weekend, there will be grades in Synergy. And even now there's grades in the Google Classroom. So if you want to check your child's grade, but there's nothing in Synergy now, then ask to see their Google Classroom. So for biology, the Google Classroom and STEMscope scores, they're going to be combined to make a weekly grade for assignments. And so the grade in Synergy will be like a weekly grade of everything they did that week. So if we do, 50 points of stuff and your student got 50 points, then they would get 100% for that week, or 50 out of 50 for that week. If we do, 100 points and they did 80, then they would get 80 out of 10 out of 100 for that week. So that's how I'm doing it on Synergy. So if you want to see like the specific assignments and how they're doing on the specific assignments, you will have to ask to look in their Google Classroom. Late assignments will be graded about once a week as well. I do accept late work, and I'm asking you all to be patient and flexible with me, and I am definitely reciprocating and being patient and flexible with my students. I think this is hard times, and so if things are a little bit late, it's really not a big problem for me. If we have like routinely late assignments that are very, very late, then that is definitely an issue that I will talk to your student about. And then if I need to, I'll get in touch with parents and guardians. Yeah, and if your student is falling behind, I will be in touch, but it definitely will take longer for me to get in touch with you than if you're checking regularly up on them. So you might want to ask to see their magazine project or their Google Classroom if you're concerned that they could fall behind, or if that's something that happens with them sometimes. It would be worth checking. Okay, so the final grade is not made up by a traditional test at all. We do a final project, and it's actually not even really a final project. It's an ongoing project that we do throughout the whole term. So we started this project a few years ago as a final project. They just worked on it the last week of the term. But through distance learning, we started to expand it a little bit, and it helps us assess as we go. It helps spread out the weight of the final, and it's just turned into this really fun project. And so the students, they choose a species that they're going to work with the whole year. They start working on the magazine. They've already made their covers, or they should have anyway. And then they build the magazine as they go. Every week we do a little assignment. And so by the end of the term, they'll have, half their magazine done, 8 pages of magazine. And at the end of term 2, they'll have this really nice complete magazine project to show. And the students do amazing work. And I am always really proud of what they do. It really gives them an opportunity to sort of have to think through the biology concepts and apply them to their creature, and really, think about them critically. So it's a very nice project. Here's some examples. All of these were made by students, including the one on the last page. So this is examples of covers, and they just really do a nice job. So I'm starting drop-in tutoring for all my classes. It'll be Tuesday and Thursday from 2:15 to 3. So if your student feels like they need some extra help and they're not able to get it for whatever reason during the independent work time, then they can drop in during this time for extra help. If you have any questions or concerns, please go ahead and fill out the Google form that's linked in the slideshow. I'll also include the link in the email I send. Or you can drop into the Zoom meeting tonight. I'm just going to have an open session drop-in time from 6 to 7 for biology. So if you are free and you want to drop in, you're more than welcome. It's definitely not required though. All right. So I hope that was helpful for you all, and you felt you got to know me and my class a little bit. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and fill out the Google form or stop by the Zoom tonight. Thank you so much.